Hi, so recording is started. So welcome everyone. So like I was saying, students from Sriram College of Commerce who've done a live project with us, Sparsh, Ashi, and Shruti will be taking us through the project that they've done, as in redoing the demonstration for the Power Query and the Power BI bit, wherein they will take us through the data cleaning, data transformation, and the data visualization process. Before we get started, would like to give a brief overview about Havish M Consulting. I'll just share my screen and then I'll hand it over to Ashi. Just let me know when my screen is visible. Is it visible? Yeah, perfect. Let me just minimize this for now. Right. So, hi everyone. We are Havisham Consulting. We're an analytics firm founded by Mr. Havish Madhupati. My name is Talha. I work with him as a consultant. Our area of work lies in digital transformation, data analytics and data visualization, business intelligence, and workflow automation. These are the set of clients that we work with. So we have Sterlite Power, Adani, Renew, Azure Power in the energy and power space. Then we've got a few clients in the CPG sector. And we also work with a lot of PSUs such as Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil, NSC, NSTC, and NABARD as well. We can skip this for now. We can skip the recommendations as well. A lot of our work that we've done in collaboration with business magazines has been published in a lot of analytics insight magazines, Speak in, Business World, and the Economic Times as well. Recently, we were part of an event called Sabera, revolved around sustainability and ESG, where Havisham Consulting was the analytics partner. We've done workshops like I was mentioning for Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, NASCOM. This one is at the National Stock Exchange headquarters in Mumbai. Next to Havish is the NSC Academy CEO Abhilash. What we do can be categorized into 6 buckets. We help improve existing business models by writing more efficient formulas. For our clients, we create custom, complex, and reusable formulas. We create business dashboards. A dashboard will be created today as well for you guys. We help client connect multiple data sources because like we all know, data does not come just from one single source. There are multiple sources from where data is coming in, and connecting all those data sources is a very challenging task, right? We create user forms in Excel for performance management. This is specifically within the HR function. And we also create workflow architecture, right? And just to give you a brief overview of the colleges that we work with, these are a few customer stories. I'll be sharing this with you guys so you can go over this later on, right? So currently we're doing a lot of sessions with Masters Union, Kozhikode. We completed in April 2023. NIFM, IMT, Center of Distance Learning, Shahid Sukhdev College, Sriram College of Commerce, the students who we have here today, MDM Murshidabad, IIM Shillong, and XIMB, right? I will now stop sharing my screen and I will hand it over to Ashi.
Thank you, Talha. Thank you for the introduction. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Okay. Let me know if it's visible.
Your screen is visible.
It is.
Okay, so we have done a project that is related to the FMCG customer survey data analysis. So I'll let you know all the steps that we have taken regarding the data creation and the sort of Power Query that we have used in everything. So I'll just start. So this is a problem statement that states that we have to merge and clean the data sets of diverse geographical regions. So for the creation of the exact data set, we took 5 data sets. So we had the data sets from North, South, East, West, and Central. So we merged it, we cleaned it, and then we finally created a Power BI dashboard. So this is what shows that how we have merged it. We have merged the data set of East and we have tried to combine or club the data set of West and East together regions, the South region, and then the Central and the North region, which pretty much shows that how we have done it through this visualization. Now, next is the central data set. So the purpose why we took 5 data sets for the analysis or for the formation of the dashboard is the reason is that different customers across different regions have different preferences. So the preference of the customer living in the north area might not be necessarily same as the preference of the customers in the east areas, and likewise for all different areas. So this is the reason we thought of, there might be discrepancies and there might be differences in the preferences. So we thought of analyzing the data of the first 5 regions first and then club it together. So the purpose pretty much here is written that it is focused on capturing the customer behavior in the north and the central region accordingly. And this is the columns that we have taken, which is the customer ID, age, gender, income group, product type, etc., which differs based on the different regions that we have taken. So this is the south data set, and then we have the west and the east data set. This is the glimpse. The following data sets would be shown by you by my fellow peers in the following time. So we have the west and east data set. Now, next, this is the description of the each customer attribute and whatever things that are included in the column. So we have the customer ID, which is the unique identifier of every customer. We have the age, gender, income group, product type, purchase channel, etc. And likewise for every column that has been taken in each data set. Now, so why merge was the question, like why do we even combine? So the reason behind combining the data sets of the different regions, one big reason was that there was the discrepancies in the data. So this, I think, clearly shows it. For example, product type and product category came out as a single column in case of the north region data set, whereas for the different sets that include the east, west, etc., they were two different columns. Number one. Number two is the north data set had 19 columns, whereas the east data set has 18 columns. So again, there is a discrepancy, right? Because we do not have the same number of columns. So this is the note that shows it all. For example, the south region has 17 columns, and it has the average spend per visit and the income group missing, which is not present, but it is present in the other data sets. We have the east and west, which have 19 data columns, which is again different from the south, which has 17 data columns. We have north, which has 18 data columns, and we have the product category column again combined, like the way I showed you in this representation. Then we have the central, where we have 17 columns, and we have the frequency of purchase and the product missing, and we have the product type and product category combined. So in order to fight these discrepancies and have to have a clean data set, we had to combine it in order to get the clear picture and the insight of what we are trying to analyze. Next. So this pretty much shows the challenges that we have faced while we were doing the analysis and the creation. So number one was data consistency, like the way I told you before as well. We were trying to append the data set from different regions to ensure the data consistency. Reason being that every region has different sort of data inserted and the different number of columns, and some columns were combined. So there were certain discrepancies formed, and it's very important in order to get the correct insights. The next, we had the large data volume. We had a data volume of around 10,000 columns, 10,000 rows in each data, which is again is a huge. And if we went around analyzing a single data set, then this might not have given the correct, insights that we were expecting to come out. So this was the reason that we combined it, and this was the challenge that we were facing. Then again is data integration. Data integration is again the similar to ensure the data consistency. It was important to data integrate. We tried to use custom scripts which were used to automate the transformation and the integration process, ensuring a smooth append operation. Next was regional discrepancies. Every customer in different region has different preferences. So in order to, understand the insights and the dashboard, which we really wanted to conduct, we had to understand the regional preferences and then combine it in order to get the clear picture. Then we had the data quality and integrity. Combining the data sets can sometimes magnify issues on data quality, because when you are trying to combine the data set, a lot of columns were null, then a lot of columns had the values which were kind of vague, etc. So we had to filter it, we had to clear it, the number one step that we did. So we applied rigorous data cleaning processes that include deduplication and outlining the detection to ensure that the integrity of the final appended data set is perfect. Now, so what were the key expectations of doing it? Number one was data cleaning, like the way I told you all. Then second was automating the process. I believe automating the process was very important by the way of Power Query as well, in order to get a clear idea, and also in order to get the desired outcome which we wanted, and a clear analysis, of course. Then then it is the integration with external data sources through Power Query, which again would be followed by Sparsh and Shruti in the following session. Then we have interactive dashboards and visualization, which was the ultimate goal of creating a beautiful dashboard which tells you the insights in a very clear manner that every layman understands that what we actually are trying to convey. Then we had data analysis and insights generation, what all insights we gathered by the analysis of data through customers' preference, the seasons in which most of the purchase was made, and which product is the most sold product, etc. Then extracting files from multiple folders. This is the major thing because since we had 5 files and we tried combining it, though this would again will be shown by you, Sparsh, following me, that how did we do it through Power Query. Yes. So this following shows that how did we append the Power Query. So there is a detailed description of the process. So number one is data import and initial preparation. So each of the regional data sets that we planned of doing, we imported it in the Power Query. And during every stage, any necessary preliminary cleaning that was required was being performed on individual data sets. So cleaning, for example, removing the null values or removing the columns that were not much very relevant for the kind of analysis that we were striving for, we did it. Then second was
Ashi, sorry to interrupt. I think there's
yeah.
a question in chat. So,
All right. Okay, I'll just go through it. Why it is a problem to combine data set with different number of columns? So there's a problem. The reason why there's a problem in combining the data sets with different number of columns, Disha, is for example, if I'm having an employee, any sort of column, for example, the customer engagement column, we are having to a certain set of product. So North region has a customer engagement column, but the East region doesn't have a customer engagement column. We needed the columns which are common in all the regions. So this is the problem. This won't give us a clear analysis because we are not here to conduct the dashboard for 5 different regions. We are here to conduct the dashboard for the entire Indian territory. So it was important that the kind of columns that we are considering is common for all the regions, and then accordingly we can drive a conclusion for the same. I hope this answers your question. You can write it in the chat box in case if you have any other queries as well.
And sorry to interrupt, but this question will be answered in the later part of the video because we have a live case where we will be combining sheets where there will be different number of columns.
Yeah.
You can continue, actually.
Sure. So next was appending the data sets. So the individual data sets for West, East, North, South, and Central regions were appended to a single data sheet, which will again will be shown by you, by Sparsh to you all. So we use the append queries feature into that. Then the third is ensuring uniformity. After appending, it's important to check that all the data sets have similar structures. Disha, this is, I guess, the answer to your question. We wanted all the similar structures, that is the same columns that each data set has. So every data set needs to have a common column, which again could be combined to get clear results. For example, customer ID, age, gender, income group, product category, and product type, and etc., and so on and so forth. Then it is the consolidation and transformation. Consolidation, again, may be undergone through further transformation, such as renaming the columns for clarity, which we did, but not to a larger extent, but we did it. For example, if you're trying to rename a column to a better understanding for the person who we are trying to explain it. Then next is analysis readiness. Yes, once the data is appended and the transformation are applied, the data set is now ready for your analysis. So we did the analysis to understand the holistic view of customer behavior across all the regions, making it easy for us to perform a comparative analysis to understand that which product has more, sort of growth and which product is more preferred by the customers across. And there is application of business knowledge. Yes, for every creation of a data set and data analysis, I think it's the core, it's the root of every business logic or decision that we take. It's very important that we analyze the data and the problem statement and create the solutions accordingly. So this is the application of business knowledge to try to apply it while creation of the data set. So now further, I would like to hand it over to Sparsh, who's going to tell you all that how did we append it in the Power Query being a very important tool in the creation of the final dashboard. Over to you, Sparsh.
Thank you so much, Ashi, for such a brief intro as to what we have done in our project. And let me share my screen. Can you please confirm, Ashi, is my screen visible?
yes, Parsh.
Okay. So this is the first interface that we get to see when we open Power BI. Okay, now let me tell you about something about Power Query. Now, Power Query is a very powerful tool. as an enthusiast in data analyst, you might have heard about two things which are very important. First is data visualization, and the second one is data preparation. Okay. Now, data preparation, data visualization, which most of the people talk about, is just the tip of the iceberg. And most of the time that you'll be spending with data is during the data preparation. And Power Query is a very powerful tool which will help you doing which will help you prepare your data. Okay, so let me just try to open a report here. Now, the first thing that we get to see here is the interface of Power BI. Now, the first task will be to load the data into Power BI. Now, there are three ways of loading the data into Power Query.
Sparsh, can you just check your audio once? थोड़ा सा disturbance है, मतलब we can hear you, but there is some disturbance.
It's not clear, yes.
The audio is not clear.
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Yes, it's better.
Okay. So there are three ways of extracting data into Power BI. First one is this get data tool. Okay. The second one is you can, if you want to import an Excel file, you can do it directly from here. Okay. And the third one is you can use this get data option, and you can directly connect the Power BI with your data set. Now I'll be using get data because I'll be extracting not files but folders. Now why am I doing it? You'll know it in the further part of the video, of the session. Okay. So I have three so I have total of 5 files, and I have grouped those files into the folder of 3: South region, Central North region, and Western and Eastern region. So let me load the first folder, which contains the file having the survey value of the Western region and the Eastern region. So there are three options. First is transform data, load, and then we have combine. Now, if you'll be transforming the data, you'll be going to Power. It will take you to. It will load the data and it will take you to Power Query. If you'll be loading the data, then it will not take you to Power Query. You will remain on Power BI, but your data will be loaded. What we have to do is we have to combine and transform data. So it will take us. It will combine the sheets. These are the two sheets which are there in the folder, and it will take me to Power Query. So from here, I'll decide my sample file, which will be East, and then I'll choose sheet 1, which is the sheet 1 of all the workbooks. Tala, can you please confirm, is the Power Query window visible?
No, we're still on Power BI. If you've shared Power BI, I think you'll have to share your screen again, or you can just share your whole screen.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because it won't show the Power Query window. It'll just show the Power BI window. Yeah, now it's visible.
Okay. So this is the data. So the data of East and the Western region have been combined. Okay. So if I show you the filter here, you'll see that I have two files here, the East and the West. Now, if I deselect the Eastern region and will show you the data of Western region, then you'll see that I'm getting null values here. Why is it so? Can anyone tell me? Well, is it because the headers are different in the Eastern and the Western region, because different regions record their data differently. As we already mentioned, that there is discrepancies in the data. The Eastern region have used an underscore in the while recording the header names, whereas in the Western regions they haven't used an underscore and they have used a space instead for recording the data for the headers in the data sets. So now how will we be accounting for these things? So what I'll do is I'll go to transform sample file. I'll remove promoted header. Remove this promoted headers. And now you can see that these are my headers, which I need to promote. Okay. So what I'll be doing is I'll be using, if you can see, use first row as headers. What this will do is it will take up the first row and it will make it my headers. Now if I see here, okay. So now I'll be coming on to my original query. And here, what I'll be doing is I'll be promoting my headers in my query and not in my transform sample file. Okay. And from here,
First, just 1 second.
sure.
So when you load the headers, right? When you promote the headers,
Mhm.
that step is correct, right? But below promote headers, there is an automatic step that is being created, which is change type,
Mhm.
right? So just for everyone's information, that is not a step that he has done. That is something that Power Query does on its own, where it goes to each column and checks the data type again, right? And wherever it feels that the data type is correct or needs to be corrected, it does it on its own. Typically, it is not advised to keep that changed. You can turn it off from the options, right? Because typically it is advised that you do the changes in the data type on your own. Exactly. Yeah, Sparsh, you can continue.
So now what I have done is I have promoted the headers and I've also removed that row which contained the header of the second file, which is West. So if you see that earlier, it was showing to me null values, but instead now, if I'll be just selecting only the Western region sheet, then I'll not be getting null values. I'll be getting the actual values. Okay, so this is how we have worked. We have prepared our one query, which is to be appended. Similarly, I'll do for the other two folders as well. Okay, so I'll go on new source. I'll again choose a folder instead of a workbook. Going on browse, project. Now I'll be choosing it for central and the north region. And I'll be clicking it on OK. Now, the reason why am I choosing these folders instead of the workbook is to automate the process. For example, if in the future some another file comes into another data sets come into me, and I have to accommodate for that changes, then I just have to drag that worksheet into the folder, and the Power BI will automatically pick it up from there, and my dashboard gets updated. I don't have to do it manually every time. This will automate the process. If I'll be selecting the actual workbooks, then I'll have to select it again and add it to connect it to Power BI. I'll be again choosing combine and transform data. So what combine does is basically combines the total number of files which are there in the folder. Since I had two files there, so it combined those two files. You can see the number of files from here. There were two Excel files in the folder, the central and the north. I'll be choosing sheet 1. I'll get a preview here. Once it gets loaded.
Also, Sparsh, when you connect the next folder, which has two files, I think, or in this one, you can just talk to them about the sample file option.
Yeah, sure. So this is a sample file which we can use. So this actually helps you decide which file you have to choose as sample. Now, one of the questions which was there in the chat box, that if that file had different number of headers, then what are the challenges? So for example, now these two file has same number of columns. So I don't have to, break my head into it that which file I have to choose. But for example, let's say if the central file had more number of columns and my north file didn't had, let's say it had say 19 columns and it had 17 columns, then I'll have to choose central as my sample file. And for those two columns, for those two extra columns which the central file has, the north will show null values. Okay, I'll show it to you. Also, when you're loading the data into Power BI, make sure that your file is closed. Otherwise, the Power BI will run into an infinite loop and you'll not be able to proceed further. Okay, so make sure that none of the file that you are connecting to Power BI is open. So now it will also show me the two files that it has combined. Those two files are, okay, the central and the north. Okay. Now, what is the challenge in this query? So in this query, what happened is the product type and product category were recorded in the same column. Now, if I were to show you for the Western and the Eastern region, you will see that the product type and product category were recorded in different columns. But in this one, they are recorded in the same columns. And also you might notice that if I choose, if I look for North, it will show me the data of North, then I'm getting null value here. The reason is same, that the header name is different. So the Power BI is not able to the Power Query is not able to detect it automatically, and therefore it shows you a null value. For Power Query, this header is missing in the North Excel sheet, and therefore it is showing you null value. But we know it that this header is present in that Excel sheet. And what we'll be doing is we'll again be doing the same thing that we did for the previous one. Okay. So again, what I'll be doing is I'll be going to transform sample file. Okay, I'll be opening query settings. And I'll be again crossing this promoted headers. So what happens that it shows me the actual headers which are there in the Excel file. Now I'll be coming back to my query. Okay, and I'll undo these two changes because these changes are done after the headers are promoted. But since we have undo those changes, we have to undo those changes here as well. Okay, and here I'll be using use headers as my first row. Okay, and here I can see both of my files have been here. Now what I'll have to add is that one of the for the second file also the headers will be shown here. For example, now if I show you for the income group, you will see that there is an income group in this column as well. So this income group is basically nothing but the header of the second file which is there in the folder. Okay, so I have to deselect it and I'll click on OK. So my row has been filtered. Now the next step would be to create separate columns for both of these things. Okay, for both of these product type and product category. Now for this, what I'll be doing is I'll be using a split column. Okay, I'll be clicking on it. I'll be clicking on split column. Then I'll be using a delimiter.
So this is similar to how you would do a text to column in Excel, right? And if you wanted to get this done in Excel, you would also use functions like left, mid, and right. And if anyone has the latest versions of Excel, there are functions like text before and text after that help you split the text in Excel.
Now, what I'll be doing with the delimiter is I won't be using a hyphen here. What I'll be doing is I'll be putting a space and then a space again after the hyphen as well, so that the unnecessary space gets omitted. And then I'll be clicking on OK. Okay. So now it has created. One second.
No, you can keep that step. There was an extra space, I think, Sparsh. You can just do
Okay.
it again.
I'll click on OK. So now that one single column has been splitted to two different columns. Okay. Now I'll have to rename these. Okay. And I'll keep the naming of this header same as those of my other files. So that is product type. And here I'll be choosing product category. So by this query is also ready to append. Now I'll have to take up my last query, which is the South region file, which I have to connect to Power BI. I'll be choosing a folder here again. I'll browse it. And this is the last folder that I have to connect it to Power BI. So there's only one file, so it's showing only one. I'll again click on combine and transform data. As there is only one file, we don't have to choose any sample file. Okay. This is sheet one that we are choosing it, and we are clicking on OK. So you can see that this one more query has been added with the name of S region. Now you will see that the name of the headers are similar to those of the previous files. So I don't have to do anything. It's just that there are two columns which are missing from here. The first one is average customer spent. Let me show you here. I'll also have to rename it because source dot name. And then I have average spend per visit, which is missing from my South region. So these are the challenges that you face because different regions record the data differently. So that is why it's necessary to understand every probable case that can be there. So what I'll be doing is now I'll be appending queries. So here you can see that there is an option of append queries. If I click on it, then there are two options. First is append queries as new, and then there is append queries. Now, if you will be clicking on append queries, then the query on which you are currently into, that will be appended into that. The other files will be appended. But if you want to create an entirely new queries as the new one, so you can choose this option. So I'll be clicking it on append queries as new. Since I have to append 3 or more files, I'll be appending these 3 files. So South region is already there. I'll be choosing West and the Eastern region, Central and the North region. And I'll be clicking on OK. Okay, so I'll have to change here as well to source name. Why? Because in all the files, the header name should be constant. Otherwise, I won't be able to append the data. Let's just quickly check that if our data has been appended or not. I'll click on load more. Central, North, South, West. So there's one region which is missing is East. So I'll go to this East one. Okay, I might have filtered it. I'll again rename it. So click on load more. So you can see that all of the 5 files have been appended into it. Now, let me show you what happens to the additional columns which are missing in the data. For example, in the South data set, I didn't had the average spend per visit and the income group. So it added null values to it. Okay, and that's how it ignores it, and you can easily do the data visualization part without even if the some part of the data is missing. So I hope this was helpful, and just a quick recap as to what we did. So we created 3 queries. In the first one, there were 2 files, the Western and the Eastern region. The file names, the header names were different. So what we did was we went to transform file. Okay, transform sample file. We undo the promoted headers option, and then we use first row as headers option. Okay, similarly, we did it to the Central North region as well. But just one more thing that we additionally did in this was that we splitted the column, which was merged previously. And in the South region, we just had less numbers of columns, and then we appended those. Okay, so now I would like to invite Shruti to do the data grouping and the data visualization part.
Thank you, Sparsh. So, guys, now that we have our data in a single file, what needs to be done is basically if you want to create meaningful insights out of the data, you want to have the data in the most simplest form, right? And I'll tell you why that's important. Just 1 second, I'll share my screen. So I hope this is visible.
It's visible.
Yeah. So we'll first talk about why we need to filter out data, or why we need to group the data, pivot, unpivot the data, and why that's important. Because if you have the data in the most rawest manner, you want to group the data into meaningful groups so that now you can go ahead and start analyzing them. So number one, as Sparsh told you, the reason why we are importing the data from the folder is because we want to automate the process. That is why grouping the data also becomes important, because we want to make sure that we are not doing the same process again and again. So by grouping the data, we want to have an aggregated form of data, and we don't want to keep repeating the same step every single year or every single quarter when we are trying to analyze the data. Number two is unpivoting the data, which I'll talk more about when I'm doing the hands-on. So that will be more easier for you to understand why we have to unpivot data when it's available in different columns, and why it's essential to have certain categories or certain attributes in a single column wherein the responses are similar, right? Third is data cleaning. Of course, if you want to go ahead and analyze your data, you want to have a clean data so that your insights or your visuals or your analysis are based on a clean data. It's not something which is manipulated, or it's not something which is corrupt or has a lot of errors. So you want to have a very clean data. Fourth is, of course, choosing your visuals. So you have to create meaningful visuals, and I'll tell you why visualization part is also very, very essential. So we'll now move on to the Power Query first. Just a second. Yeah. So now that you have appended our data and we have everything in hand, what we want to do is, just a second, I want to remove this.
Just untick that cell. Just click anywhere on
Where?
any of the other columns. You want to remove the part at the bottom now where it says 2, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
yeah.
Yeah, you can just click on any of the column names at the top.
Here?
It's because you selected a specific cell. That's why the value popped up.
No,
Perfect. It's
I'm
gone.
trying to remove this Zoom meeting,
No, we can't see it. We can't see it.
but it's kind of interrupting. Just 1 second.
Three
Yeah,
dots
I
at the
think,
right. Yeah, three dots. Hide
yeah,
meeting
yeah,
controls.
yeah, yeah. So now that we have appended our data, the first thing that we want to do with our data is we want to categorize the data. So if you look at the age column, right, we have different ages mentioned over here. If you're going to visualize this in the form of, let's say, a bar chart, you can't have 50 different ages mentioned, right? Because that will be very difficult for you to understand. So you want to have this in the sort of age brackets, right? So I think the best way to do that is have a conditional column. But just a second, before moving on to the conditional column, I think the best way that you want to categorize this data is also to understand what's there in this particular data, right? So you can just go to column distribution, wherein you'll know what's there in your data set. So that will be very easy for you to understand how you want to categorize this data. So because in our data set, we did not have a lot of diversity when it came to ages, but when you are working on a very extensive data set, and you have a lot of different ages mentioned, that is when it becomes really, really important for you to categorize that entire data set into different categories and age groups. Same goes with income and other columns or other values that contain numbers, wherein you might want to have different brackets for those numbers. So we'll quickly add conditional column to this. So we'll select age. We'll also try to rename our column from here itself rather than doing it later on. So that just saves your time. So we'll go to is less than or equal to, because we don't want overlapping numbers. So if you go ahead and say that, let's say is less than or is greater than, then there are chances that, let's say if the age group is like 19.1, or if you just want to equate it, so it's going to create a lot of confusion. So you want to go ahead and say that is less than or equal to, so that if you put the age as 19, so if the age is 19.1, it will show in the next age bracket and not in this one. So it's just up to 19. Now, of course, you can choose how you want to name this. So I can just go ahead and say teenagers, or you can also put it as 13 to 19 or 15 to 20. That depends on you and your data set. Like I showed you how you can study your data set. Of course, if you have some sort of equal distribution of ages, then you can go ahead and categorize it in that sense. So then we again do the same. So because we studied our data set, we were able to categorize our ages in this manner. We'll just say young professionals. Or you can just go ahead and say millennials. You can add the age group. It's up to you, of course. Then we say adults. Or here is basically anybody above the age of 55, we want to call them retired, right? So this is based on our data set. Of course, it can vary for yours. So this is the new one that we have. And we'll just go ahead and try to shift it over there. And you might also want to delete the previous one because it's no more relevant to you. And it will make your job easier when you're trying to visualize, because there'll be confusion if there is like age and age group options. So that's that. So we'll remove this one. Yeah. So now that we have categorized our age into different groups, so we have the teenagers, we have young professionals, we have the retired, and we have the adult group, or the, let's say, the baby boomers, or anybody, or any kind of categorization that you want to do. It's all up to you. So now we'll try to duplicate this one, and I want to call it consumer behavior. So what you want to do is, basically, if you look at the data set, there are certain things that we have. So like health conscious, eco-friendly, impulsive buying, and the consumers are supposed to answer in yes or no. That is why we are going to have another table or another data set wherein we want to have all these questions into a single data set, so that it's easier for you to understand the consumer behavior, or what are their expectations, or how are they behaving, what are their outlooks. So are they health conscious, are they eco-friendly, are they doing impulsive buying? So that is why we want to pivot it. When we want to pivot it, we are going to contain one common key in all our tables. So if we have this table, we have our customer ID, right? In the next table as well, we want to have customer ID, which is unique and which is going to be common for all. So we'll press Control and we'll just a second. Yeah, and we'll start selecting the columns that have a yes or no answer. So it is health conscious, eco-friendly, impulsive buying. Then we have online research and in-store purchase. Since there are none, the next step that we are going to do is, we'll say, remove other columns. So we have removed the irrelevant ones and we have kept the relevant columns. What we want to do next is basically unpivot other columns. And what this is doing is, basically, before, what was happening is you were having different columns and you were having the same answer. Now we have our columns in the single one, and it's showing that this customer ID 999, health conscious, it's not health conscious. 999, is it eco-friendly? Yes, it is. Do they do impulsive buying? No, they don't. Online research? No, they don't. So on and so forth. So it is going to show you the customer attribute of every single customer, and they're going to try to classify it in these terms. We'll do the same thing for another one. We'll again create the duplicate. We will call this consumer insights. And then again, keeping customer ID as our common key over here, we are going to take all the high, medium, low columns that have the answer as high, medium, low. So it's brand loyalty, digital engagement, and also our income group. So currently it shows null because, as Sparsh explained, we had our South region column, South region data set, which did not have the income group data. So that is why it's showing null. Otherwise, it would have shown the values had that data set, had that particular data set contained it. So now that we have this, we are again going to
Shruti,
unpivot. Yeah,
after you unpivot, there's a question in chat for you.
yeah, just a second.
I'll read it out.
Yeah.
How is the age group column able to reference or show values even after deleting the age column?
Could you repeat?
How is the age group column
Hmm.
able to reference or show values even after you delete the age column?
Yeah, because we just so it's able to show it because it has taken the reference from the previous one. So we have just removed it from over here, and it still is able to take the reference that we have created. So we have not removed it entirely. Uh, that is why. So if we are going to clean it totally, and if we are going to create blank values, that is when we have a problem. And since our values are already over here, so I think we can remove them. Does that answer the question?
Nauman, if you have if you require any further clarifications. Perfect. Yeah, he says yes, so I think we can go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So we have created our consumer insights. We are just going to create one last table, duplicate it. Let's just call it dims. And again, customer ID will be common. And then we are now going to select everything other than the yes and no questions or the high, medium, low ones, because those are the remaining ones. So we have the gender, we have product type, category. The reason why we are doing this is because when we are trying to visualize, we don't need a lot of options. So I could have just used this particular table, but because I don't need a huge list of options when I'm trying to visualize, because uh, then you have to kind of pay a lot of attention as in which column you're trying to you're trying to use. So I think in that way, it's really important that you kind of filter out these columns that are no more relevant. So it makes your job easier, especially when you're trying to visualize, which you'll understand when you do the hands-on or when I show you right now. So we have the autumn, we have the frequency of purchase, uh, then we have the regional preference, and then we have the average spend. So we'll again remove other columns. Yeah, so we don't need to unpivot this because as you can see, uh, the rows have different values and they're not common. And we have a lot of diverse columns over here. So there's no need to unpivot because it won't be beneficial in the end. Uh, so now that we have done this, we're just, what we'll do is we'll just close and apply. And we'll wait for Power BI to load our files. So meanwhile, if there are more questions, you can of course put them in the chat box.
Yeah, so while this is loading, so what Shruti said was partly correct, that it doesn't immediately affect the values when you delete the source column. But like I mentioned on chat, generally not advised to delete any source columns in your data unless absolutely necessary. Because right now, since we're working on single file, the conditional column will still remain, like Shruti was mentioning. But if tomorrow you want to append more files or you want to reconnect the same file and do a refresh, those values will disappear. So rather than deleting, you can hide as well so that you don't see the column, but it's still present in your source data. Yeah, Shruti, please go ahead.
Yeah, so we have all our tables over here. So what we're doing is we're just going to hide a few of them. simply because when you're trying to make or create visuals, if you're going to have like 5-6 tables, and if you open one table, you have so many options available. So if you're going to have like 5-6 uh, tables for you and data sets for you, it's going to be confusing for you, because let's see, if you're not going to hide this and if it's visible. So we have our facts table as well. And you see, there are so many options for you to choose from. So you can, of course, have this, but to make it look more clean and easy for you, you are more beneficial for you, uh, as somebody who's trying to analyze data, to hide these, so that the less the better for you to analyze, since all of them have the same values in the end. Now, we'll move on to a few sort of visuals that we can create. So there is a very uh, good option that we have in Power BI, which is of Q&A. I'll just try to zoom in. Yeah, so of course they suggest a few questions to you, but you can also go ahead and ask a few questions. So if we look over here, maybe let's say if we want to compare age with our product category. So we'll just say compare age with category. So it's going to do that, or we can just ask it to create a bar graph.
You'll have to write age bracket or age group, whatever you name the
Oh,
column.
yeah.
Yeah. Rather than compare, you can just write count of age group by
Yeah, or the
product category.
average.
Yeah, average of age group, because we want to look at the quantity purchase or something like that. Count or
Yeah,
average
so
of age group.
I think I might have to go ahead and with average. Okay, so the reason why it's showing this is because if you see, our age groups are like, or the people belonging to different age groups are actually similar in all the product categories. That is why this is happening, or the count of age group that we want. So if you want, like, if your data is like really skewed, so of course it's going to show you a lot of variation. But what we
Maybe
want to
you
do
can
is
do average spent by age group. I think that'll be a better metric since we have a calculation there. Sum of average spent by age group as a bar. Since like you mentioned, the data is not skewed, then the bar
yeah.
might not come correctly. Average spent per visit by age group as a bar.
Okay, I think it's not able to
No, no.
show the age.
You'll have to type age group again. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, now it works.
perfect.
Yeah. uh all right, so like this is a feature that the Q&A, in a way that the Q&A works. So you can ask questions and you can have your visuals being created in the end. Um, of course, you have to be smart when it comes to asking questions, because uh, as you can see, just minor changes lead to a different result. So you have to be careful about the kind of questions you're asking, but also when it comes to the Q&A, there are questions being suggested by Power BI itself. So when you're starting off, you can of course try and use that feature. But once you have an idea of the entire Power BI, or if you're just trying to explore more, you can go ahead and start creating your own visuals by choosing one of these charts. So I'll just quickly go ahead and show you the kind of dashboard that we created. So this was one of the dashboards. Uh, Here are the like total number of customers that we have, the average customer spend. So different stacked bar graphs, and this is a reference line that we try to add. This is the gender distribution. So just kind of like an idea of what sort of bar graph or what sort of charts that you can go ahead and use. So this was pretty much what we did with our presentation uh, and the project that we are working on.
Perfect. I
So we are
think this
open
was
to
a,
questions if you
yeah,
guys have any. Yeah.
please go ahead and ask any. You can unmute yourself or you can put the questions in the chat. Great work, Sparsh, Ashi, and Shruti. Thank you for walking us through the journey of,
Thank you.
cleaning a data set in Power Query, right?
Thank you for
So
giving this opportunity to us, Stella.
so everyone, we didn't spend a lot of time on the dashboard because, like you see, the visualization bit is fairly simple when it comes to Power BI or Tableau or any other business intelligence tool, like Sparsh had mentioned earlier. So the main focus is how do you manage different data sets when they're coming from different sources, right? And that was the idea that we wanted to cover during this session. And they've done it wonderfully throughout this 1 hour. So if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and ask them. Or I think then we're good to go for the day.
Hello.
Yes, Nauman.
I wanted to ask that are there any DAX calculations used for this dashboard also?
Sparsh, Ashi, if you want to take that up.
If you could just repeat your question, I am unable to hear properly. Sparsh, did you hear?
Hello.
So he asked, are there any DAX calculations in your dashboard?
Sparsh, if you would like.
Oh, no, we haven't used any DAX calculations in the dashboard.
Okay.
Nauman, since the data set were fairly simple and it was survey data, I don't think they found any need for using DAX, right? Hence, they did not use it in their dashboard.
Any other
Perfect.
question, please?
Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, please put them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask them. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll just pause the recording as well.
Yeah, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.